Hey guys, on today's From the Install Bay, we're going to show you how we hook up 4-gauge wire to an amplifier. Stay tuned. So what we have here today are two different amplifiers. The first one has a compression style fitting. The second one has a fork style fitting. We have a bunch of connections. We have some wire. We're going to show you how to make the magic happen. So let's get to it. Okay, so what we have is two different styles of connections. We have a fork style connection and we have a compression style connection. The fork style connection is going to take just that. It's going to take a fork. Something that has two teeth on it is made to fit underneath the screw like this. So let's talk about those first. So what you have is your 4-gauge wire. Let's strip a little piece off of the shielding here. Now, what we've seen a lot of is people like to just flatten this out and jam it in there like this and tighten it down, or they'll do the V. Well, they'll V it out like this and shove it in there, and it's really not the way you want to do that. So what we'll do is we'll cut off a little end there again. So now we have our fork terminal. So we'll slide on the fork terminal like this. Okay, make sure we have all our little hairs all just kind of twisted on. Alright, so we have our fork terminal like this. Now you have to crimp it. I've seen some of you guys use these, just kind of smash it flat. Some people bang with a hammer. Some people even use these, which you get an A for effort, but really at the end of the day, it's kind of a small fit. What you really need is an actual 4-gauge crimper. So you put them in, it has a tooth, you line the tooth up with the seam, and you crimp. In this case, it takes a double. Now you could take your little smaller crimpers and just squeeze. And what that's going to do is give it a nice V. It's going to be nice and flat. And when you try to pull it out, it's not going to come out. So you've made a really nice connection at this point. Now, some of you like to take things to the extreme, myself included. So at this point, what you can do is take your soldering iron. Alright, so what we have now is a super fork connector. This will never come undone. So what we'll do is for right now, we'll let that cool off before we take that to the next step. Now the other thing you can do, if you don't have a cool pair of crimpers, and you did use these, or you don't want to use these, is you can actually just solder the terminal onto the wire. Let's kind of repeat the same thing, get it all set out. Helps to have this standing up. Okay, so then what you end up with is the terminal soldered on. What we'll do is we'll cut that off and we'll let that cool for a minute. Alright, so now we'll come back to this one. So we know we've got that in there really good. So now they give you these cool little things that you can slide over the end of it. Just twist them on. And you end up with this termination. Personally, I like to not use those, but get some heat shrink. Put it on the wire. And now you're good to go. Slide it into the amplifier. Tighten it down. And you have a serviceable connection for life. Anytime you need to move the amp or disconnect the amp, you can unscrew this and screw it in as many times as you like. And it'll always go back the same. And you won't have to worry about it. And you don't have to worry about the wire coming apart or anything like that. Now for this one, it's the same thing. You have a nice tight connection. Put a little shrink wrap on it. And you're good to go. So you've got this style connection taken care of. What we have over here is a compression style. So most of you guys like the compression style because you really don't need anything. You put it in, unscrew it here, push real hard, and voila. The wire's in. But then you go to move the wire because you want to run it somewhere, and all of a sudden you have this stuff hanging out. You're like, oh, that kind of sucks. What do I do about that? Well, a couple choices, and you've also just crushed in the wire. So you got this giant hole right here now, so now you gotta fan out the wire, and you got a bunch of loose ends, and so then you gotta retwist it, unless it's damaged a lot, in which case you gotta cut it off and start over. Or you could just solder the end, which is what we started here. So after considerable time working your way around it, you end up with this nice lug right here that you can then put into the amplifier. Crimp it down. As you'll notice now it's a lot harder. Okay, so now you have a good, you notice you don't get the same style bends. It's in there really well. It's not going to come out. The downside to this is it takes a long time. But you know, if you got the time, it's definitely worth doing. Now, then your next option is what are called ferrules. That's these things here. Ferrules are little sleeves that go over the wire. So what you do is you trim the wire back. You slide it onto the wire just like that. Get it. Cut back the wire. Slide the ferrule on, kind of like the fork terminal. Okay. You want to make sure you get it flush with the tip. Alright. So now you have basically a sleeve over the wire that it's going to, when you put the screw down, it's not going to rip all the wire apart, and it's going to compress it into here, kind of like what we were doing with the crimp tool on this. So we'll open this back up, we'll crimp it down. Okay, so now, obviously we have a much nicer connection on the outside. We don't have any wires that are going to eventually pull off or anything like that. If we need to service it, we can pull it back out. Okay, and it's in a nice little sleeve that isn't going to fall off. If we want to make it look complete, you can put shrink wrap over the end of it, just like this. And it goes back into the amplifier. So there you have it. Those are two different ways with two different style connectors to hook up so that you get the best connection into these amplifiers where they won't get loose and you don't have a bunch of frayed wires sticking out of them. Well, that wraps this one up. Thank you guys as always for watching. If you'd like to subscribe, we greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, if you want to know more about us, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. As always, if you have a question, please feel free to leave it down below and we will get back to you. You guys have a great night. We'll see you later. Bye. Oh, God, that hurt. Hey guys, in today's show... Hey guys, what the fuck? Show you how to... Why is the camera still shaking?